Today we start slope. So we're going to come back to all the graphing stuff that we've been doing, but I wanted to take a minute and really focus on the direction of our slope of a line. So there's some things that you need to know, and you might want to write these down and kind of keep them handy. Slope is simply the steepness of the line. And we're going to be dealing with this for a while. So it's of a line. Okay. And sometimes our lines are going to be super steep. So when we're talking steepness, like this kind of line is not as steep as this kind of line, right? Like this one's going up a whole lot faster. And then this one's kind of really gradual. So if you think about like rolling down something on, let's say, a wheelchair. Okay. Not the best drawer, but here we go, right? Here's our wheelchair. If we're going down this ramp, we're going to be like, boom, and we're going to fly down it. If we're in a wheelchair and we're on this ramp, it's easier to go through and gradually get where we need to be, right? So the steeper the line, the bigger the number, right? The faster the speed. It's the same kind of thing when we're looking at these. And that's what we're going to kind of build to make sure that we understand. Today's lesson is all about the direction of the line. So if you notice this one here on graph 1, I always start reading from the left to the right. Like when you read, determine whether the rate of change of each of the following lines is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. I'm always reading from left to right. We're going to do the same thing on our lines. So I'm going to find the furthest point to the left, right? And again, sometimes you might come over here and be like, oh, there's the line, it's right here. And then I'm going to trace it. It's going downward. So if it's going downward, is that going to be positive, negative, nothing, or something I can't define? It's obviously going to be negative, right? Because we're going downward. Negative. And again, that's pretty steep, so that's going to be a pretty big number. We'll get to that later. But right now, all we're working on is this is a negative slope. Okay. So let's talk about these options. So our negative slope goes down this way. Let's see what our next one does. Okay. Let me erase my little lines here. So again, you always start left to right. I'm going to come over here, left side of my graph, and I'm going like this. And I'm like, oh, wait, here's the first part that I touch, right? And then I'm going upward. Okay, you're always reading from left to right this direction. So if you do this little squiggle thing, it'll really help you make sure you hit the right spot. And it's going upward. So if it's going upward, that's going to be positive. So upward is positive, downward is negative. Makes sense, right? Like it's pretty common sense. Let's look at the next one. Okay. This one here, again, if you want to do the drawing method, we're going to scratch it. And, oh, here's the first time I touch the line. And it goes downward, and downward, we already said, is going to be negative. So on my answers here, all I'm going to do is just click the one that I chose. That was negative, this one was positive, and this one was negative. So see the difference on graph 2 here? The pink one going up, the blue one going down, and you're always reading it from left to right. That's the key. So use that scribble method I just showed you. I don't really know if it's an actual method, but we're going to call it a method because it works. Okay, let's check those and go to the next one. If it will let me, what's happening? Of course, this is what happens. All right, let's look at this one. So same thing here. We're gonna go, oh, that's the first time I touched it. And it's going downward. So that's gonna be negative. Okay, it's that simple. Don't overthink it. Don't make it too complicated. That's what it is. Easy peasy. Not going to take a whole lot of brain power. Now this one, if we think about our wheelchair analysis here, right, over here on my drawings, if I have a wall, and I'm talking about being in a wheelchair, okay, and my walls go straight up and down, right, can I take a wheelchair and drive it straight up and down the wall? Okay, no, I can't. Like there's no driving your wheelchair down a wall, like from the floor to the ceiling, from the ceiling to the floor. There's no possible way to do that. So that is going to be undefined. It just basically means not defined. Okay, impossible. Can't do it. So that right there is going to be undefined. So that's going to be this way. When I have lines up and down, it's going to be no steepness. It's not, well, not that there's no steepness. It's impossible steepness. Like you can't possibly roll your wheelchair up a wall. So it's undefined. It's impossible. Okay. And then look at this next one. And same method. We're just gonna scratch here. Here's the first time I touch it. And it's going upward. So that again is going to be, hopefully you said positive, right? So that is what we're doing for these problems. Let's see, the only one, oh, here it is. The next one that we need to talk about is zero slope, meaning there's no steepness, meaning it's totally flat. So if I have a line, and I'm talking my wheelchair still, there's no steepness on this. It is not going to roll by itself at all, right? We would be stuck and we would have to use our arms to roll our wheelchair because there's no steepness. Same thing with this, except our wheelchair is going to roll a little bit because there's a little bit of steepness. Here, we can just let go of the wheels and it's going to throw us down to the corner, right? And then up here, it's not possible. So when we're talking about steepness, that's kind of what we're talking. So since this one is straight across and flat, there is no steepness to it. So that's going to be zero steepness, okay? And it's sometimes it says zero, sometimes it says none. This one in particular says zero. Okay, so we need to know the difference between positive slope, negative slope, zero slope or no slope, and undefined slope. And if you think about your wheelchair, it usually helps. Okay, when we get to steepness, we're going to get there soon. So just kind of giving you a precursor there. This one here, here's the first time I touch it, and it's going upward, right? So that's going to be positive. And then we go to this next one. So that one was positive. If you notice, the pink one is going the opposite direction. So hopefully you can kind of start seeing it and not necessarily have to scratch over it. But that is what we'll get there in time. This one goes here. Here's the first time I touch it at that arrow, and it goes downward, which is negative. Okay. So the other way you might see slope is sometimes they tell you slope guy. So you might see slope guy in the future, and he kind of looks like a little angry dude. He's got this, he's got this, he's got a U for a nose, and zero for his mouth. And this eyeball, oops, this eyeball is negative, and this eyeball is positive. So if the face makes more sense to you than just memorizing the little pieces, you could do that too. But here's our slope man, right? Doesn't he look like a mean, ugly guy? But that way, downward is negative, upward is positive, U is undefined, and you can even put the line this way to give him his nose. And then zero, that's why there's zeros here for his cheeks to help you remember. So if you like the slope guy, use him too. And then again, we're going to get to this shortly. So this was just kind of a precursor of what we're doing there. Okay. So if you have any questions, reach out, schedule a time with me. If not, 10 points, get more math.